Hello, hello. I think we're live. Are we? I'm watching my stream preview. There it is. Is my mic working? Cool. We're good to go. So I've got like 14 minutes, 13 minutes and change until I can actually get started here. I think I want to see if my auto downloader works. And then once I get going for Advent Code, I'm going to try to wrap it up as fast as I can because it's about to be midnight. And I want to go to bed. I'm on the East Coast, so like it's actually midnight in my time zone. This is late for me. This is going to be an exception, a one time only. I'm not going to do all of these as soon as the puzzle becomes available, because that's just going to destroy my sleep schedule and I have to work. So this is like a one-time weekend exception for day one, because day one is not going to be impossibly hard. A week from now, it's going to be the weekend and I won't have to work, but the puzzles are going to start getting hard around that time. So even though I could stay up late on a Friday night or a Saturday night and then sleep in, like the puzzles are going to be hard enough that it might mess with me and I won't be able to sleep even after I stop streaming. Let me get my Twitch bot running here. That always takes a minute because it's JavaScript. I think, there we go, it's joined. Let me see if that works. Seems like it works. Is my chat? I have a browser source. That browser source seems to be working. I can't see the browser. I can't see the chat on my screen, so it's hard for me to tell what it's covering up. Maybe I should get one of those fancy transparent text overlays, but that's not going to happen today or probably this week. I'm going to start to be pretty busy with Advent Code. I also want to see if my auto downloader works. So I have... Where am I? Okay, I'm in the right directory. I have the script called New Day, and it can auto download the puzzle input, not the sample input, but the actual input that I need for me personally. And these vary from user to user to discourage cheating or discourage people from watching somebody else's stream and then just pasting their answer into your input, because everybody's input is different, so everybody's answer is also different. But this downloader, it's just curl, but it requires cookies. And that should be working if you have a Firefox add-in called cookies.txt. I don't think I have set that up on this computer, and I actually closed Firefox because I wasn't planning on using it for anything. So I've got a bunch of... Is that what it's called? There's also a Chrome add-in, so I could have just used the Chrome add-in. Oh, I already have it because I copied my Firefox profile from my last computer. I wasn't sure if add-ins were part of the profile. I use that for like passwords and stuff, but I was not aware that add-ins were there too. And then I should be able to just run the script. Obviously, this year's puzzle, 2024-01, isn't available yet, but maybe I can test this with a previous year's puzzle. So you can see I've done basically all of 2023. I think every day is there, even if I didn't do both parts. I at least attempted every day. And I have a few days there from 2018, so I could do like 2018 day 2, or I could do like 2022 day 1. I don't know if it's going to have to be 01 or just 1, because the URL depends on the day. So I don't know if it always uses 2 digits or if it's the first day, would it just be 1 instead of 01? Let's find out. Okay, I have to make that executable. And then try that again. So it did something. Curl didn't seem to fail. It made a directory. That's part of the script. It just makes a directory. There's a file there. Is it empty? Yeah, yeah, that didn't work. Maybe I'm logged out. I think I do this with GitHub. It's a coding thing, so GitHub kind of makes sense. Usually for these things, I use Google and sometimes Facebook. All right, approved the 2FA. How much time do I have here? Like 9 minutes. Okay, now I'm logged in. Let's see if that downloader works now. I could just remove the whole year, probably. See, the thing is, curl kind of like, does the script not do? The script has error handling, but curl kind of just pretends that it succeeds. Even if you get 404, the command treats that as a success, which is arguable in my opinion. Actually, I wouldn't say it's arguable. I would say that should be a failure. Okay, well, my auto downloader doesn't work. Maybe I have to refresh that extension or add-on, cookies.txt add-on. I don't know. Maybe it's 1 instead of 01. Because I did theorize that. I don't really know which one it is. Would that be the directory now? Oh. Kind of worked, but it doesn't think I'm logged in, so I think the cookies add-on isn't really working now. Maybe I have to log in with Chrome. I don't know how it knows which user to use. Maybe I have to run this under Windows and not under WSL. But I think when I did this last year, I did it under WSL. Anyway, like I'm not really going to use the auto downloader for day 1 here this year. All right, yeah, I forgot there's a countdown here. I'm not going to run it from the command line, really. I'm going to attempt to do this through the Syntran Explorer. This is a web service that lets me, or lets you, rather, play with the Syntran language. I made this programming language, so I usually run it locally. But for anyone else who doesn't want to install a binary or who doesn't want to build the Syntran interpreter from source, this is an easy way to run things. You can edit these samples. You can run the other samples, like this calculates pi. It uses a series to calculate pi. You can only do a couple terms of the series. And then you get a less accurate pi, 3.1414. That's only like 3 or 4 decimal places that are correct. And then as you go through more terms in this for loop, it gets more accurate, 3.1415, that's closer. And then it converges quite rapidly. So after just a couple iterations of the loop, you get a very accurate approximation of pi. And I think this is every digit of a double precision number that's accurate for pi. So there are some samples here. You can see how to do various things in Syntran, and you don't have to install it locally. You can just run this in your browser. You can run it on your phone. The UI will get squashed down, and it won't have quite so generous margins on either side. So it should look okay on the phone, and you can still edit things using this code mirror editor. So I'm going to attempt to use Syntran Explorer to do day 1 of Advent of Code here. I might get stuck at some point and switch to a local version, and it's going to be quite painful to scroll because the input is probably going to be like 1,000 lines long, and then I'm also going to need like 1,000 lines of helper utils functions to be able to do simple things like split strings based on comma delimiters. And you'll probably need basic stuff like that in Advent of Code day 1. Yep, so I just wanted to hop on a little early and ramble about stuff like that. But there's not too much that I wanted to talk about before we go live. Do I want to debug this auto downloader? Do I have to do anything to use this extension? I don't want to turn on sync. Oh no, I think I have to like save it somewhere. Yeah. How do I download? Because I need to have this file, and I don't have that file. So I forget how to use this extension. How do I use this thing? Got like 2 minutes here. I don't really feel like doing this in the last 2 minutes. wget. Okay, but like how do you do the export? All right, we've got 1 minute here until the puzzle goes live. So I'm not going to be competitive on Advent code, so it doesn't really matter. But I do want to go to bed, so I don't want to waste time on tangential distractions tonight. I think there's like a support hub link. I think I probably have to do that because like where the hell is the documentation? I don't understand this shit. Anyway. 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. Clear my undo cache there. Start setting up the skeleton of my main function and my part 1 function and my part 2 function. But too late now. It's time to solve a puzzle. I'm not going to read this stuff. This seems like where it gets important. Oh, you have to sort. You need a sorting algorithm in day 1. And that's like trivial in something like Python or even C++, where you have sorting algorithms built into the language. It's a little more difficult on things like C, unless you already have like a utils function or utils collection of functions that you like, or some collection of libraries. Except you don't actually need to sort. Or is it absolute distance? The distance between them is 2, and I think the distance is always positive. So I was going to say you could sum the whole left list without sorting, then sum the whole right list without sorting, and then just find the difference in the sums. And the difference of the sums is the same as the sum of the differences because things are commutative. But if we're taking the absolute value of the difference, which is, I think, what they're saying, then the absolute value does not commute, so you can't do that. You have to actually sort these things. So it's non-trivial, in my opinion, for a day one problem. Unless you're doing something like Python, which most people probably are, and then this is trivial. Let's check out the input, check out what format it is. Okay, it's just 2 numbers on a line. So if you pair a 3 with a 7, the distance is positive 4. So the 3 was smaller. And if you pair up a 9 with a 3, the distance is still 6, even though greater than and less than they're in a different order. So it's always a positive number. So you do have to actually sort these, I think. I might be missing some optimization. But I think you have to actually sort these lists. And that's fine because I have sorting built in. Or do I even have it in utils? Maybe not. So last year when I did this, I built up like a utils function that has common things for string processing. I don't know if it has sort. I did sort for a couple days, but I didn't bother putting it in utils.syntran. So I'm going to like go in and copy paste that. I'm not going to rewrite things from scratch this year. I'll just reuse when I can instead of reinventing the wheel. Okay, so I'm not going to do this locally. I'm going to do this in Syntran Explorer. That's my input. Duh, don't put prints after the return, because that's never going to reach that. Okay, and then I want like a part 1 function and later a part 2 function, but we'll copy and paste that later. I don't know what I want to return there. Eventually I want to have unit testing, so I probably do want to return the answer. All right. Cool. So we're going to have to process this string. We're going to load it into two separate vectors, sort both of those vectors, and then take, is it the L1 norm or the L infinity norm of the difference of those two vectors? Is it the taxicab? Yeah, it's the taxicab norm. I think that's the 1 norm, the L1 norm, if you want to be mathematical about this. So, if you watched my warm-up stream a week ago, some of this might be familiar. And I need my split function, which is actually in this utils collection. There's a function in here called split. Actually, it's split underscore. It takes a string, and it takes delimiters, and then it returns a vector of strings. So I want to split my input string by new lines, and then get each line out of that and iterate over them and know how many lines there are. So there's an underscore there. Don't save. But I will want to back up stuff. So those are my utils. And I'm just going to paste that 700 line set of helper functions in here. And now scrolling in the code mirror editor is kind of funny, not super smooth. This web service is not built for doing 1,000-line long scripts. It's meant for doing like 100-line long scripts, and then you don't have to scroll so much. Okay, did that run? That doesn't work. What? I think paste failed. Or did I paste this in the middle of a function? What the fuck is this? This is before I had return in syntran? Okay, I never updated that. Fortunately, I have it somewhere else. I have an updated version of utils. And then I want to go in here and undo all that junk that I just pasted, which is apparently no longer valid syntran. That was a breaking change when I added return statements to functions. Previously, the return value of a function was just implicitly the last line that was evaluated in a function. If you had an if statement, it could be in either branch of the if, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's just the last line of the function. But when I added returns, return is required. And this function is no longer valid syntran. I don't do that very frequently, but sometimes I do make breaking changes to syntran. And that was one of them. So I have an updated version in here. This one has a return statement, so that's valid. Select all, copy, and then paste it in here. And then that runs. And then how many lines do we have? Is that? Can I get the size of a string array like that? Is it going to be size 0 or maybe it's size 1? Six. And if I scroll all the way up to the top, or I could have just switched tabs, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. That's correct. It doesn't really need to end with a new line delimiter. It's still 6 lines because the delimiters only really need to be in between. So this is not counting the number of new lines, new line characters. It's counting the number of lines. And that's the number that I want. So I'm going to allocate a couple of arrays for that. And then we're going to iterate over each line. And we're going to have 2 vectors, vector 1 and vector 2, v1 and v2. Could be v0 and v1. That might make more sense in a zero-based indexed programming language. And I'm going to pre-allocate these arrays. And then I'm going to split each line by spaces. So I want to get the 3 and the 4, and I don't care how many spaces are in between. And some of these, or most of these, are multi-digit numbers. Are there any negatives in here? There are no negatives, but the difference could be negative, and then you want to get the absolute value of the difference. There's probably some way to do this without sorting. I don't know. I'm just going to do it the easy way. Who knows what's going to happen in part 1. If you wasted time trying to optimize part 2, it's probably going to be a waste for part 1, or vice versa. So I need to split again. Actually, I'm not ready to do anything here, but I do want to save a local backup. There we go. Now I have a backup because this web editor could just lose your source if you accidentally refresh the page or anything dumb. So you don't want to do that. You want to save a backup if you use this thing. Better yet, just install syntran locally and don't use this beyond just very preliminary playing around with syntran. That's a good sanity check. Actually, here I could use parse. I figured this out last week. Is it parse i32's? Parse i32 delim. Okay, I think this is the function that I want from my set of helper utils. Space is the delimiter. And then v1 is nums 0. I think it should have been v0 and v1, but I'm already committed. I might not bother changing it now. That runs without crashing. You can see that actually reruns. I would be a lot more comfortable in Vim, but you can still do like duplicate line with a couple keystrokes. Like if you're at the end of line, you can do shift, arrow up, copy, paste, paste, and there you've duplicated a line. Without Vim, just YYP, yank, yank, put. So there are my 2 vectors, and I need to sort them. I need to get a sorting function from somewhere else. That will also be in a previous advent code. I want to close this tab because this utils is bad. It needs an update. I will update it maybe tomorrow, but I just want to get day 1 finished here. It's late. I don't want to get distracted. So probably somewhere in the last 5 days we had a sorting function. Quick sort. Yeah, I used quick sort I implemented that once and then I reused it throughout a few days. And this returns an index array. I probably had another one that modifies in place. And that would probably be easier for day one here, but I can make this one work. And I don't feel like searching for it. So we're going to have two index arrays. One will sort v1 and the other will sort v2. So this is the first index array that sorts the first vector. Qsort is the quicksort implementation here. Does that run? Okay, that runs. This is just going to be an index array, some permutation of 0 through 5. So those are the numbers 0 through 5 in some order. And if you index v1 in that order, it should be sorted. So 3, that's the lowest number. And then the second one is the second lowest number. And then this is the third lowest number. That's how that indexing array works. And I'm going to want to duplicate line here, or duplicate 2 lines actually. And then replace all my 1s with 2s. This part would be a lot easier in Vim. Just jump to 1 and then replace, and then repeat the last replacement command. So I should be able to have both vectors sorted. Now I need another for loop. Might be able to do this without a for loop. The thing is, you can't index an array by an other array in syntran. You can do that in Fortran. So in Fortran, at this point, I could get the answer in one line. I could do like sum equals abs v1 I1 minus v2 I2. And I1 is an array and V1 is another array. So you're indexing an array by an other array, and you can do compact vector expressions like this in syntran. I don't have this one in Fortran yet. I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of Fortran features implemented in syntran, so you can do similar compact mathematical stuff. You could do stuff like this. You could do V1 plus V2. And this is not related to the current problem, but you can just add vectors. Like the plus operator is overloaded for scalars and vectors and matrices and any kind of array. So you can very easily add 2 vectors, but I can't do this in syntran yet. That's only available in Fortran, unfortunately, and MATLAB and Scilab and any other MATLAB knockoffs. Unfortunately, I just need another for loop. It's not that bad. N lines is still the size of my array. I wish I would have called it N, not N lines, but whatever, we're committed now. And it's going to be sum plus equals abs. It's going to be very similar to this expression, except now it's going to be inside of a for loop, and we're going to index this array with the iterator of the for loop. So v1 I1 I minus v2 I2 I. I think that should be it. I did this yesterday. I do not have absolute values for integers. So do I want to just hack this? I'm worried about rounding error. I think I have a poor man's abs in here. This is not utils anymore. I'm pretty sure I have abs in here that works for integers. It's just abs underscore. Nope. I thought I had that. Yeah, I can't control F in CodeMirror because it only searches like what's visible on the screen. It doesn't have the whole 900 line file loaded in memory. So that's not going to work here. I have to go back to GitHub and then control F. I kind of want this in another tab. Maybe I just inlined this every place. Oh, it's abs I32. Okay. There we go. So what are we expecting for the test input? Hopefully that's 11. That should be 11 for the test input. Now I just have to repeat that on the real input. And once again, CodeMirror is going to choke on this much data. So this is another reason that you should do this in a real editor, but I'm just doing this in the web editor as a demo. This is just for playing around. You shouldn't do 1,000-line long scripts, but you can. Scrolling looks like shit, as you just saw. If it's only 100 lines, all of that can fit in the browser, but 1,000 lines can't. So this is the test input or the sample input, whatever you want to call it, and then we're going to have the real input, which is hundreds to 1,000 lines long, probably. We'll find out in a second. It's actually 1,000 lines long. That should run in not too long. Okay, we have a number. I really don't need to print all that out. That's part of why that took so long. All right, that's part one. Let me clean up part one there so it doesn't log as much, because that might actually slow down the run. Printing n lines is fine. That's just a scalar. I don't need to print the whole vector, and I don't need to print all of the index arrays. I can group those together so I can comment them out together. I keep hitting Control S by instinct to save, but I don't want to do that from the web editor. And it's logging each line. I don't want to do that either. That's better. And it takes maybe a second to run. It's not great, not terrible, but this is a poorly implemented scripting language, interpreted language with zero optimization. So that's really not bad. This is quick sort. It's not like bubble sort or a terrible sorting algorithm. Even bubble sort would probably be fine with a vector of size 1,000. But yeah, that's part one. Let's find out what part two is about. Three appears 3 times, and then we do 3 times 3 equals 9. 4 appears once. A lot of stuff appears 0 times. So this adds up to 31. 9 plus 9 plus 9 times 4. It's 31. Okay. So I think you still need to sort to do this efficiently. You could brute force, you could iterate through the left list, and then for each one of those, iterate through the whole right list again, but that's going to be order n squared. That's only going to be 1,000,000 because it's 1,000 times 1,000, and that's 1,000,000. It might not be that terrible to brute force this. I might just try that. But you already sorted for part 1, and then that would help you optimize part 2. But then you would have to do like a bisection search to find the left number in the right list. And I don't feel like implementing a bisection search. So I think I can just brute force this and it won't be that bad. It's 1,000 times 1,000, it's 1,000,000. If it was 1,000,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000, you would have to optimize it, but I think you can get away with just brute forcing this. For a warm-up, I did like 2018 day 1, and that required a little bit of optimization. Here, I don't think you need it. Anyway, I should make a backup of what I have so far in case I accidentally refresh the web editor and lose all my source. Now it's backed up, so I won't lose it. Let's do part 2. I'm going to start by copying and pasting part 1, because you still need to get the lines and split the lines and split each number within each line. So now I have part 1 and a copy of part 1. This is going to become part 2. And like this much is going to be the same. If you wanted to optimize, you would probably want to sort both of them. I'm just going to comment that out for now. And not save. Try to override my instinct to save all the time. Okay, and it didn't actually sum anything, so it just says 0 for part 2. Now we will fix that. And I'm just going to use a nested for loop to brute force this. I'm going to call it J1 and J2 to not get confused with I1 and I2 from part 1. I'm not going to indent the usual way because this is just a double for loop. Okay, I do want to indent because we're going to have like, they have names for these things that I can use for my variables. Similarity score. Number of times that it appears. So you could say appearances. And I do want to indent this in the usual way. Appearances. It's going to start out as 0, and then every time we find the left number in the right list, we're going to increment appearances. This is brute force. There's not a lot to it. If v1j1 equals v2j2, again, I wish I was in Vim so that I had tab completion, because I have a risk of misspelling this. Maybe I already misspelled it, but I think I'm at least misspelling it consistently. Okay, so what is that? Well, I would like to do the sample input, but I don't feel like scrolling up very carefully through 1,000 lines and commenting out just the right parts. So this should be easy. Like, you can see it didn't take that long to run. Yeah, I have a timeout on the service if you try to do anything that takes longer than 10 seconds. Like if you try to math bomb my AWS server here, it just won't keep running after 10 seconds. Fortunately, this does finish before it hits the 10-second timeout. So the timeout is not a concern, and brute forcing this is just fine. This is the hard part. I don't have the answer yet, but just counting the number of appearances is the hard part. So I don't think there's any point in trying to optimize this with sorting and then doing a bisection search. But if you wanted to optimize, that would be the way to do it. And now we need the similarity score, or I'm just going to call it sum, and it's going to be the number in the left list times the number of appearances. So sum plus equals v1j1, that's the number in the left list, times the number of appearances, and I think that should be our answer. I think I don't want to print that because it's too verbose. That might be the answer. What is this, like 29 million? That's not anywhere near the maximum 32-bit integer, so I don't think you need 64-bit integers here unless I've already overflowed and then gone back into the positives. All right, that's day one. 33 minutes with a lot of yapping and a not ideal web editor. That's not too bad. I'm not competitive. I'm not going to be on the leaderboard, but 33 minutes isn't bad for me, even for day one. All right. So we've got 2 stars for day one. Now what I want to do, I might want to clean this up. If it wasn't midnight, maybe I would try optimizing this just for fun, even though you don't need to. It runs in well under 10 seconds in an unoptimized, poorly implemented interpreted language, so there's really no point to optimization. I think I might want to try to get my auto downloader working, because that really is convenient. And then I want to like save this and commit this, so I still need to do that. I think I can clean up the logging a little bit more. I don't really need to print the number of lines. And I think I want this logging to be a little bit more specific. And this should be included. The quick sort, the sorting algorithm should be included in utils. And I want a little separator here. I could fold. CodeMirror has code folding built in, and apparently it doesn't work. I thought syntran syntax was close enough to Rust that I could just tell CodeMirror that this is Rust, and then all of the syntax highlighting and all of the code folding should just work, but apparently it doesn't work. It's because it doesn't recognize printline as a function. Because in Rust, this is, what is it, like printline bang? Printline is or print. I can't remember if it's print or printline in Rust, but it's a macro, so you put like an exclamation mark somewhere when you invoke it. And I guess that's messing up the code folding because it starts right at that, or it stops code folding right at the printline function. That's cool. At least you can select text and then it keeps your selection as you do the code folding. And then I wonder if it can fold the for loop. Okay, it can fold the for loop at least, even though it can't fold the function. Anyway, that's a distraction. Just want that logging to be more verbose, and then I don't want to log the number of lines. And then the same thing for part 2. That's a little bit cleaner in my opinion. And then this stuff is not relevant. This is just brute force. And I mentioned this, but now I'm just commenting it in the code. Optimize. I got a Twitch pop-up. I thought it's not anything in my chat, it's somebody that I follow. So. And then, what was I saying? And then do a bisection search on the second list. So the sorting is done, but then you have to implement the bisection search, which isn't really that hard. But I'm lazy. I thought it was easier just to do brute force. Okay. And I want to save that locally and maybe commit. What's my status, first of all? This is from a week ago when I was warming up this year on a problem from 2018, so I don't really need that. And then this was from testing the warm-up or the auto downloader script, which doesn't work apparently because I don't have my cookies saved. I have the cookie browser extension, but I don't remember how to use the cookie browser extension to save my cookies as a text file. I think these are just copied from templates and there's not really anything in there. It's kind of like the template that I spent the first 5 minutes writing, but my auto downloader and then my daily bootstrap script just copies this from a template automatically, so that saves me a few minutes every day. But I don't really need that now. And then what did I do in 2024? This should be the important stuff. This should be what I just wrote and then copied from the browser to a local file. And yep, that's it. So I think I want to commit this, and then I might want to try to figure out how to get my cookies saved locally. What did I do in here? I just added executability. And I think I can just remove all of that. Hey, Callie. My cat Callie is here. Want to say hi to Twitch? No, she's shy. Okay. Do I want 1 digit or 2 digits? I'm going to go with 2 digits. Because it's a month. Every day in the month is always going to fit in 2 digits. We're never going to have a Y32K problem or a D32 problem. There's never going to be a 32nd or a 101st day or a 100th day in December. It's never going to happen. Okay, that should be pushed now. Yeah, if you're watching on Twitch, I don't know, run my links command. You can get to my website and then get to my GitHub and find this commit. If you're watching on, okay, that's not the repository that I want. And then if you're watching on YouTube, this link should be in the description. But this is the repository that I just committed to. This is the code that we just added. It's a huge file because I copied and pasted the input data into the file because that's the only way that you can run this in the Syntran Explorer web editor. You don't really have access to a file system because this is running on some AWS server. If it will ever load, come on, Google Chrome. How's my system doing? I only have 16 gigabytes of RAM. So I copied and pasted the input into this because you have no access to the file system running on syntran.jef or 1.xyz. So the only way to have the input, you can't read it from a file. So the only way to have it is to copy and paste it into this source code file. So this is like 1,800 lines long now because it has 1,000 lines of data and then 800 lines of helper functions. And then my implementation at the end is only like 100 or 200 lines. I don't know what GitHub does that makes scrolling so much smoother than CodeMirror. Well, CodeMirror is editable. GitHub is not editable here. Although I think they do have an edit option. So I wonder if that is better or worse than CodeMirror. And I wonder what GitHub is using if it's not CodeMirror. So we have like 1,000 lines of input data. And then this utils block is all the helper functions that I copied and pasted from last year. And that's like another 800 lines. And then we had quick sort. And then after all of that, we finally have the advent of code implementation, which starts at like line 1850. And the whole file is just under 2,000 lines. So from 1850 to about 1950, it's only about 100 lines for the advent of code solution using all those helper functions, if you don't count the helpers. So that's committed. And then I think I want to try to get this downloader working. And to do that, I need my cookies as a text file. I already searched this. Not using wget. Is this what I already had open? Yes, I already had that open. That has no information on how to actually use the extension. I figured this all out last year, and then I got a new computer, and now I don't have my cookies anymore. So ideally, you only have to do this once, but now I'm doing it for the second time, and it's really annoying. I could just copy my cookies file from the other computer. That would work. I have a flash drive here. My other computer is right here. I'm using it to watch my own Twitch stream right now because this laptop probably can't handle streaming and watching its own stream at the same time. Okay, how the fuck do I use it? I'm just going to look at my other computer. It's getting to be 1 a.m. here. It's too late to be doing anything. LS cookies. There we go. I have a cookies file on the other computer. Yeah, I think. The problem is this going to change? I think if I get it once, it should be fine. How the fuck did I get this file in the first place? Like, I can copy it to another computer, but is that a good solution? All right, what flash drive do I have to transfer this? Make sure that's not like a CentOS ISO or anything crazy. My old computer is so frustratingly slow. Go to Linux. No, I can't go to Linux. I'll copy cookies.txt from Linux to my C drive. And then I can put it on my flash drive. Permission denied. Fuck you. Sudo. Why? I can't copy to my C drive? Why the fuck not? Okay, but I can copy to my user profile folder. And it's not even on the flash drive yet. Why is everything so difficult? Where are my cookies? There are my cookies. Copy. Paste. All right, now I need a USB dongle. There's a free USB port. Oh my God. no, never. All right, now we've got a cookies file. Wait, what the fuck was in there? Is that where the thing that I needed was? Nope, there's nothing in there yet. No, wasn't there? Okay, and that, I was wondering, like, do I already have the thing that I just spent 10 minutes copying from another computer? No, I don't think so. I'm not going to cat this file, but trust me, there is stuff in there. So now does my downloader work? First of all, I don't want to like run this on today and have it overwrite today's code that we just implemented. But I already committed that, so actually it's fine if it does do that. And I can just nuke 2024 if I want to test this. Not that. Okay, so I only have this file, and this is committed. We just looked at this here, so it's fine if I delete this to test the auto downloader. New day. And I think it has to be 1, not 01, because 01 I got a 404. That's a 404. That's not good. But if I do 1 instead of 01, well, yeah, it's a different directory now. Oh my god, why does it still do that? So if I look at this, it's using home cookies.txt. So apparently like this is different, or it gets updated, and I can't just copy it from my last computer. How the fuck do I use this add-in? Probably, that's probably the way to do it. I hate clicking on things with mouses. There we go. Export cookies. What? It says export cookies in the tooltip pop-up, but then when I click on it, none of, is it manage extension? This is not exporting my cookies. God damn it. What if I click on this? There we go. Facebook. This is not Facebook. Anyway, let's see what that does. Oh, now it changed the extension? What the fuck? Maybe we got two different websites there. I'm really tempted to cat those files to see what's inside of them, but it's probably a secret that I shouldn't expose, so I'm not going to do that on stream here. I will see what the size of those files are. Maybe I don't want to list all of my downloads. I've already exposed my browser history here tonight. So those are two files, and they're not empty. They're like 100 to hundreds of bytes. Okay, now what if I take this, back it up, and then copy this to where the new script bootloader script expects it to be, which is this file. If you see the script, it expects that cookies file to be right there in my home folder, or tilde. So that's where I copied it to. And then, do I already have stuff? Yeah. So let's rm that. And then do that again. Oh my god, it finally works. There's my input. And if I were to do this on day 2, it's not going to work because day 2 is not available yet. I think I want to put a comment. 2023-1. Now I know if you're doing day 1 through 9, it's 1, not 0-1. If you try 0-1, you will get a 404 error. So don't do that. So what this does is you give it the year and the day as a single argument, so it makes the directory, and -p will recursively make directories, even if like the first level parent doesn't exist. It will make the first parent directory first, and then make the subdirectory of that parent. And then it splits that text into the year and the day. So you give them as single arguments, but then they get split into year and day. And that day has to be 1, not 0-1. And then it composes that into a URL. This is the way that the advent of code URLs work. And then it curls that into your input data. So I just ran that, and then I catted the file that it downloaded, and there's the input data that we got manually for today. Sorry. I want to minimize this stuff so you can see my cool transparent background. Yep, this is that data that I just catted. So if you look at the last couple lines, you have 20,896, so that auto downloader worked. I can remove everything and then cat that again, and there's nothing because that file doesn't exist. And then if I run that downloader with the correct day format, and then tail that file that it downloaded, you can see it downloaded my input, and that was the last line again. Yeah, so that works now. Then how I think I have to put instructions for myself on how to use the cookies extension. So what you do is you click. I hate clicking. I hate using a mouse. Give me Vim. I hate that I have to do it like this, because like, how do you find this if you don't remember how to do it? You can't. It took me like half an hour there to remember how to do this. And I'm sure the Google Chrome extension is like entirely different, so you can't transfer this experience to another browser. If you learn to do it in Firefox, you just have to do it in Firefox. Click the puzzle-shaped icon in the top right of Firefox. Like, I just hate writing instructions like this. I hate using GUIs. I wish there was a way to do this at the command line. That would probably be OAuth, which is like equally annoying, but at least you don't have to click nonsense with a mouse. Is it an add-in or an add-on? Or is it an extension? They're extensions. So you click the puzzle, and then you click on cookies.txt and open extension. And finally, I think we said current site, but then it did Facebook and advent of code, because I have like another Facebook privacy extension that like runs a container for Firefox for just Facebook or something like that, so that Facebook doesn't track you. I have no idea if it works, but I installed that years ago. So maybe that's why we got two sites, even though I just said current site. So it sounds like it did this, even though I clicked that. So what's the last thing you have to click? Current site. Or all, that would work too. Or if you do all, maybe it saves them all in one file. I forget how that works. Maybe that's what I did on my last computer. Wow, that was annoying. Okay, but now I have instructions, so in 10 years, when I get another new computer, I can remember how to do this, and like everything will have changed by then, so these instructions won't even work anymore. But if I have to do it next year, it might work. So there was probably no point to writing those instructions, but whatever. All right, yeah, I think I'm gonna commit that comment in the script, and then I'm gonna end this. Oh yeah, I deleted everything. So I just want to check that out again. Oh, it's now we have a conflict because it's 0, 1 in the first commit that I did, but now it's 1 because that's the only way that you can auto download the input. That's okay. We can copy this to there. So this folder did exist from the checkout that I just did, but now we just have this. So this buffer is going to be dead. And I want to edit this now. And that's the stuff that we implemented today. I think Git should just detect that I moved this, but it won't really work until I commit and push it, probably. Or maybe it just won't recognize that. So basically all I did here was put some comments in here about how to get your cookies, and then I moved this file from 01 to just 1. So that even though that's going to be like a 2,000 line deleted and added diff, it really just moved. It wasn't deleted and added. This is really not 2,000 deletions. Did I add the new file? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I'm just gonna force push that. Commit amend, and then force push. If you pulled this in the last 2 minutes, pull it again, please. Personal repo, doesn't really matter that much if I force push this. If it was anything else, I would not force push, but for this, I think it's okay. Whew, I'm tired of talking. Is this the only tab I have open for this repo? Just scroll all the way up, I guess. Yeah. That's why the diff was not correct. It should have already detected that I just moved that. Yep, and now this is just moved. I think that's what that icon means. We have the input, which is actually not used. This came from the auto downloader, but because I implemented this on the web editor, I didn't use the downloaded input text file. And yeah, file renamed without changes. That's what I wanted. That's good. Okay. Yeah, I think I might find somebody to raid. Can I do that from here? I think I have to find somebody. Is somebody raiding me right now? Thanks for the raid, Rascal. I don't know if you were doing Advent of Code, but I was just doing Advent of Code. And I finished, so I was just about to find somebody else to raid. But thank you for the raid. Were you doing Advent of Code? Am I correct in that assumption? Was Bad Cop on? Great timing. Oh yeah, you were doing it too. I think she's doing Advent of Code. Yep, AOC. That's what the Tmux session name seems to imply. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to raid Bad Cop. Well, who else is streaming? J Blow is too big. And I think Mesaka might be doing something tech related. Anyway, I'm going to raid Bad Cop. Oh, this is Bad Cop's stream. I need to put the raid in my chat. I'm just going to do that on my other computer. Okay, BADCOP_. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow, but not at midnight. I'm not doing this at midnight again. This is like a one-off exception. I'll do it at like around 7 p.m. Eastern on December 2nd. All right, thanks guys. See you next time.
Wait a minute, what? Huh? Why is there a new line? Or does this not restart itself? It doesn't restart itself. Oh, that's so annoying.